Second language acquisition. We're going to start with Krashen's theory. With Krashen's theory, he had 5 main points. Acquisition learning, which is the acquisition is subconscious process, and learning is the product of formal instruction. So he's combining the two things with this acquisition learning, where we subconsciously acquire a language, but we also learn from a formal setting. Then the next is monitor. This is the practical result of the learned grammar. So when you sit there and you're able to take your knowledge and you're able to plan, edit, and correct the language. The next is input. The learner improves through natural order, okay? The learner improves through the everyday life of going out and building upon each level of language learning. The affective filter. The affective variables play a role. So for example, if you don't have the motivation to learn, you're not going to. If you don't have the self-confidence to get up in front of a classroom and speak, you're not going to. If you have anxiety over maybe common conversations that you don't know the words that might come up, then you won't have those conversations, okay? And the introversion can cause a mental block. So these things, these anxieties can cause you to not want to speak your second language in these situations. For example, my husband is fluent. He actually lived in Chile for a while, and he became fluent based off of street language, okay? So he comes back to the US, and multiple people told him, you should be an interpreter. You should be a legal courtroom interpreter. They get paid very well. And my husband sat there and he's like, I would have to do a lot of studying in order to be that courtroom interpreter because I don't know those words based off of what I learned on the streets in Chile. So he didn't have the motivation to learn, the confidence to sit in a courtroom and try to say words that he wasn't sure of. It, brought him anxiety even thinking about it, and therefore he was like, no, I'm not going to do this. I can't. The last one is natural order. So grammatical structures follow a natural order, which is predictable, okay? So once again, we're talking about in language, we build upon steps. First, we make sounds, then we relate the sounds to, we build the sounds into words, then we build the words into sentences, and there's this natural order where we go from the basics to more complex. The role that grammar plays, according to Krashen's theory. The only instance in which the teaching of grammar can result in language acquisition and proficiency is when students are interested in the subject and the target language is used as a medium of instruction. So basically what we're saying here is that students need to be interested in what they're learning in their second language, okay? So if we sit a student down in a classroom and we're teaching them English based upon just English skills and they're not interested in anything, then they're going to get those mental blocks. They're not going to want to move forward. But let's say maybe the student is interested in science and we sit down and we teach them English according to science where they can relate. Then the target language, the second language, is being used as a medium, and it's helping them to make progress because they're interested in the subject. Now we're going to talk about Kuhlman's theory. BICS. This is the basic interpersonal communication skills. This is where he's saying that language skills and functions that allow students to communicate in everyday life. These are the things that we need in order to function in our home, the things that we need to function when we go to the park, the things that we need to function when we go to the store. This is our everyday life, us out and about asking, where is the bathroom? Can I get a drink? These are the things that we need to know how to say to make it through our everyday life. Then he talks about CALP, which is the Cognitive Academic Language Proficiency. This is the language needed to perform school tasks successfully. Okay, so yes, maybe we can go out and we can ask, where's the bathroom? Or maybe we can go out and ask, know how to order our food. But when we sit in the classroom, there's a level of academic language that students need to understand in order to complete their school tasks successfully. Even for first language learners, sometimes that's difficult for students. But as a second language learner, as you're acquiring your second language, this is definitely more complex, and this is where students need to master these things in the classroom. Next, we have CUP, Common Underlying Proficiency, the belief that a second language and a primary language have a shared foundation. Okay, so we're sitting here saying, we know English, we want to learn Spanish. There is a foundation to both these languages that connect. Okay, and a connection of how we process those languages. Cummins' theory is that being bilingual is a cognitive advantage, and knowledge of the first language sets a strong foundation for the second language acquisition. So what he's saying is, if we are bilingual, we're having this advantage. We have this advantage. Our mind has an advantage. And as we learn our first language, it kind of sets the foundation for the second language to be learned. With Cummins' C's, there were 2 C's that I chose that I found to be very important for my classroom. The first one is critical thinking. As described, it says using graphic organizers to represent the structure of thought. This is what was most important to me, though. It increases variety and efficiency in use of learning strategies. So when we think of students, no 2 students learn the same. No 2 students have the same exact interests. Maybe they have similar interests, but not the same exact interests. So what this does is when we give students a blank graphic organizer and say, express yourself, this gives them the opportunity to follow instructions so that they don't feel lost because they don't know what they're going to write about, but it gives them opportunity to express themselves in a given topic. An effective way to use this in the classroom, I like the thought of comparison charts in the classroom to provide opportunities for students to think for themselves and explore content in a deeper thought. Okay, so we're not just talking surface level here. We're talking, okay, tell me, we all like baseball in here or whatever. Compare the Dodgers to the Padres right now, and let the students sit there and think, okay, she's given us the topic, she's given us guidance where to go, but she's allowing us to lead the discussion. And that's where the critical thinking comes in, and that's where students are able to express themselves. Okay, and that comes into the second C that I really enjoyed, which is culture. Draws on experience in mainstream culture, moves smoothly between school and home. Okay, so at the beginning of the year, what I like to do is have a culture lesson to get to know my students. As I look at this culture lesson and I understand my students a little bit more, I'm able to plan my lessons around their interests throughout the rest of the year. and I'm able to continue to encourage and bring their culture into the classroom. I find that to be something that would help the students to feel comfortable, be able to express themselves, and have confidence in my classroom knowing that they're able to be themselves. These are the references that I used for this presentation.